Welcome back to Overreaction Monday. We got a great one for you guys as we are finishing up Week 13 now. We have the Browns and Broncos to finish up Week 13 on Monday Night Football that me and Vince will be live for as our play-by-play live reactions. You guys make sure you check that out tonight at game time. We'll go live right as kickoff starts. But, man, it's been a crazy witching hour of Week 13.
Yeah.
Of all the ending games. There were so many good ones. We're going to talk about a few today, but we're also going to be talking about, since there was some Thanksgiving games, we're going to be talking about a few games like the Bears, Lions, Dolphins, Packers. Well, no, we're not going to talk about that one, but I wanted to. But we had a lot of great games before this Sunday, but we're doing Overreaction Monday, and we're going to head straight into a head coach firing. Matt Eberflus has been fired as the Chicago Bears head coach. Now, if you guys watched the Bears and Lions game, you probably know why this finally happened, all right? Now, I can't believe if you haven't heard about this, but I'll break it down in case you haven't, all right? So at the end of the Bears-Lions game, there was about, I think, 30-some seconds left on the play clock, and the Bears are driving, trying to get in field goal range, getting pretty close. They're knocking at the door, and then Caleb Williams takes a sack in crucial time. He takes the sack, so that means the clock is running. Bears have one timeout. What do you do when you have about 30-ish seconds or so, Vincent, when you take a sack at that type of moment?
You take a timeout and you recuperate, man. You get your rookie quarterback some time and don't rush him to make a mistake because, of course, you're the coach. You've been in the league longer than he has. He doesn't know these situations like probably you may have seen before.
So that's what you should do. But even though Vincent is not a NFL head coach and, he's not as smart as these other guys out there, he knows to do that. But apparently Matt Eberflus got frozen up, didn't know what to do. I don't know what was going on there. He does not take a timeout. The Bears take forever to line up. Caleb Williams ends up changing the play right there as if he has time for that. Doesn't spike the ball. That could have been another option, just spike the ball and play for another down.
Yep.
No, they with about 5 seconds left on the play clock, they hike the ball and they throw it downfield, and Caleb Williams misses his guy anyways. And the game ends right then and there. Bears lose by 3. Don't even get a chance to lose by a blocked field goal or a missed field goal. They don't even have that chance. The Bears fans are robbed from even that because they can't even execute how to do a 2-minute drill. This is a basic 2-minute drill scenario of what do you do in these certain situations that every single team practices. They go over, they study this type of stuff. And the Bears completely flop. You'd expect it from a rookie head coach or a rookie quarterback, but from a head coach who's been in the league for a while, and this is his 4th year as the head coach as the Chicago Bears, he freezes it up and doesn't do the right thing. And the Chicago Bears end up losing that game. Matt Eberflus goes to the podium after the game, says, I think we played that perfectly. I don't think we did anything wrong. The morning after, which he does another press conference in the morning, Friday morning, which is crazy from the Bears to, before they fire him, make him speak to the press. Absolutely wild that they made him do that. And he then starts backtracking, like, hey, we should have taken time out. I forget his exact words, but he backtracks a little bit. And then the Chicago Bears fire him a few hours later. Vincent, do you think it's deserved?
I mean, I'm not always against firing somebody in midseason, but the thing that I hate here is that this is such a organizational downfall every single time. And we've talked about it on this channel before. You bring it up pretty much like every single time it happens. So I know this is where you're kind of going. But they fired another head coach after drafting another rookie quarterback. And it just sends everything into turmoil because everything Caleb Williams has learned from the culture and trying to build it with his team, it's going to totally flip when there's another head coach coming in. And right now it might be an interim coach, so maybe it doesn't change as much. Maybe they just elevate somebody and hire him for next year. But most likely it's not going to happen. So I don't know. I don't like it, but I think it was deserved because he was not doing his job. I mean, his record there with the Bears was horrible. Even though, regardless of everybody else and how they played as players, it just wasn't a good head coaching tenure.
Yeah, so they did promote to Thomas Brown, their offensive coordinator, to the interim head coaching position. So they have that. But yes, you're correct, Vincent. This happens every single time with the Bears. It's just a cycle. I said I was trying to help out Bears fandom. I said that they should have fired him at the end of last season and started new with a new head coach. There's a lot of rumors about last off season where Ben Johnson decided to stay with the Detroit Lions because he didn't like the options out there. There's rumors that he would have the position he was looking for was the Chicago Bears head coaching job. Right now, at the start of Caleb Williams' rookie year, you could have had a head coach of Ben Johnson as your guy to be able to start leading this team into the future, but you've delayed everything. You've let certain players that are going to be aging out of being like key players on your team. This defense most likely will not be as good. That was the only thing I could defend Matt Eberflus was his defense, but even that has turned pretty bad recently. You should have done this last offseason, started anew, got in an offensive-minded head coach, because with these my problem with having defensive guys as your head coach is your constant rotation of offensive coordinators. Because as soon as your offensive coordinator starts doing good, he gets a head coaching job, and then your quarterback has to learn a new system every single year, every few years. That's my problem with defensive coaches being head coaches. You need for a young quarterback, you need a offensive coach or a offensive head coach so that he can stay in the same system throughout multiple years and learn and grow in the league and nurture his development. Caleb Williams, we've seen some good out of him. I've attacked a lot of Bears quarterbacks in the past. I think there's a lot of good that you have seen from Caleb Williams, and there's lots that you can build upon. Yeah, this is going to hurt his development a whole lot. And if you mess up again with a head coaching hire and don't get a Ben Johnson, a great offensive mind, if you get a defensive guy again and you don't get a perfect offensive coordinator to be able to nurture Caleb Williams is going to be out of the league in a few years, and the Bears are just going to have to start the cycle over and over and over. I think this is a huge screw up starting from last offseason. And they have to get it right this offseason. They have to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I like Caleb Williams too. Like, of course, we all had our reservations of like, is he actually going to make it in the league before he got here? But really, the games that he's stood out are games against his divisional rivals. So the past 3 weeks, he's played all his divisional rivals. And I mean, I can't really say he had a horrible game against any of them. Maybe the worst one was against Green Bay because no touchdowns thrown. But he still had a good game, in my opinion.
He did.
But against Minnesota, 2 touchdowns, 340 yards passing, some more rushing. I mean, 3 touchdowns against Detroit, which is probably not what anybody expected. 256 yards passing, and of course, 39 yards rushing. So, I mean, he didn't make many mistakes except at the end there, but his coach should have saved him.
That was his head coach's job.
Yeah, that's what a head coach does. He saves your team from making horrible mistakes, because when you're out there on the field, the last thing you're thinking of is that clock, especially when you're a rookie. Of course, once you get more tenured in the league, like a lot of these guys, they know clock management like the back of their hand. I mean, so I don't know. The Bears are just dysfunctional, and I agree with Reed. Every single year, the Bears are going to bear. So,
yep. Hopefully, they can figure it out, because I would love to see a revival in the Bears and Packers rivalry where we're not beating them for the past 10 games in a row. You know, I would love for the Bears to steal one so we can become a real thing again, unfortunately. But also, there's a lot of juggernauts currently in NFC North, so I hope you guys don't do that. But we're going to head into that right now. Is currently, Vincent, the NFC North is an absolute juggernaut. It is crazy right now. So obviously you have Vincent on his power rankings hit the number 1 ranked team in his power rankings. The Detroit Lions sitting at 11-1 on top of the division, most likely, unless they slip up in these last few games, which I don't think they will, are going to win the NFC North. Then you have the Vikings. Very surprisingly, going into this year, are now 10-2 with Sam Darnold and a pretty good Brian Flores coach defense. They are sitting at 10-2 and doing very, very well. The Green Bay Packers, who have looked great, they're 9-3, and their only 3 losses are to the Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles. They're basically the juggernauts, which is sad because it looks bad for the playoffs because we're going to have to play those teams. But also, like, hey, we're winning games, and the only ones we're losing is against good teams. And then you got the Bears, who are now 4-8, which is pretty bad. But I think we both understand that if this is a well-coached team, they could at least be at 500 or have a winning record, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
They have the roster to do it. So this NFC North is absolutely wild right now, Vincent. I hate it because I wish the Packers could just win the division outright with a 9-3 record, which is great. I mean, if we were in the South, we would win the South, and if we were in the West, we would be winning the West right now. It's very frustrating as a Packers fan right now, looking at my division. I know you know all about it because that's how your division has been for the past 5 years or so.
It's stressful.
It's so annoying, man. But what are your thoughts right now? The NFC North. Obviously, I know you're gonna have the Lions at top, but do you see maybe the Packers can jump the Vikings? They do have 1 game left, so they have the chance to beat them. But what are your thoughts about the Packers and the Vikings, the Lions? How this division is gonna sort out, especially for playoff rankings?
Well, when you look back at all these divisional games, besides a few here and there from the Lions, because the Lions are the true juggernaut, in my opinion, in this division. And I don't think that's going to change. They could possibly slip up here or there, but they have the win, the tie, basically, with both of the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers, if y'all were to catch up. So I don't think they're going to not win this division unless they totally self-destruct with more injuries to both sides of the ball. Because I think right now their offense is saving them. But when I go to look at the Packers and Vikings, I see them right here. And every week it goes like this. It teeter-totters. Not all the way if you're on a seesaw where it goes up and down, but it just very little. And there's weeks where I'm okay, the Vikings are going to jump the Packers in the power rankings. And then I'm the Packers are going to jump the Vikings in the power rankings. So again, I think that last divisional matchup between y'all is going to be very important, especially in week 17. I don't think the Bears will have too much to do with the Green Bay Packers, getting a rank above the Vikings, because I think you guys will probably beat them again.
Yeah.
That will be at Lambeau. It's going to be prime weather for you guys. Of course, the Bears have cold weather too, but
they're good for cold weather.
Yeah, but the Packers are just a different level when they play in Lambeau. So I don't really see that as a game that you guys would lose. I think it's something that you could win, especially with the monstrosity that's going to happen with the Bears. I mean, not having a head coach, even though it was bad coaching anyways. So I think the Green Bay Packers will probably be second in this division when it's all said and done. Of course, I look at Minnesota's rest of season, and they have a lot of tough matchups. So I do think they'll lose more games than they will win. I'm being biased here because they play the Seahawks, and I think we can actually beat Minnesota. But they go on a crazy stretch in those last 3 weeks. It's Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit. So I think those could be very well the 3 losses that move them down to third in this division. So that's what I kind of see. I always look at rest of the season when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to just regular football and the divisional rankings. So that's what's really playing into factor here and where I'm putting my teams at as of power ranking as well. So it's gonna be it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how it shakes out. We got the Detroit Lions and Packers matchup this Thursday Night Football, which me and Andrew will be reacting to live. So if you want to watch me cry on live. You can come watch me freak out. I do get very animated during games. But hey, if you know anything about Green Bay Packer football, you know we win in December. Matt LaFleur's record in December as his head coaching and as the Packers is 22-4 in his years in coaching the Green Bay Packers. 22-4 in December, and those 4 losses are mainly just during the last Aaron Rodgers slump year. Every other, he had to start his career, he had 16 consecutive wins in December as the head coach. I feel really good heading into this December. We got some tough matchups. Obviously, got the Lions, then we got the Vikings. The Bears are nothing to sleep over, but those are our biggest games in December. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling really good about how the Packers are going to move forward. Hopefully, we can beat both Detroit and Vikings and really knock them down a couple pegs. That would be awesome. We'll have to see, but I'm really excited. We can't wait for the playoffs, really.
It's so crazy because it's so far away, but it's right there, and it every game matters now. It's crazy.
Yes, so. Every loss, every win completely changes the scope of things.
Yep.
All right, let's move on from the NFC North. I know you guys are getting sick and tired of me talking about the Packers, etc., but I'm going to talk about the Packers a little bit here. A former Packer quarterback, okay? So not entirely. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and him absolutely just blaming his teammates again. So the New York Jets just lost to the Seattle Seahawks, and it was a loss of 26-21 where the Jets took a very early lead. I believe it was 21-7 at one point, and then the Seahawks gradually came back and they were able to win the game against the Jets. And in the press conference, the press was grilling him, asking a bunch of different questions. But they asked him, hey, Aaron, do you find yourself to blame, basically? Or what is the reasoning, basically, for you not doing well on the football field? And they've been grilling him for weeks upon weeks, and this is his answer. Well, and I'm quoting him here, all right? He says, well, there are 11 guys on the field, he said. Sometimes it's my fault. Definitely multiple times today. And then the details aren't there in some other spots too. Now, if you know me, I'm a Aaron Rodgers very big fan, okay? That guy has given me so many wins across the years, a Super Bowl, so many countless memories, so many amazing wins. I love the guy. No matter, he could do unimaginable wrong, and I would still support the guy somehow. Now, I have come on this podcast multiple times, and you can find the clips. I've attacked him. I've attacked him multiple times for his character, for his leadership. I've attacked him for basically leaving the Packers in a really bad spot multiple times. I've attacked him for so many different reasons. Now I'll do it again. Aaron, you are the guy that you claimed that you were going to come in there and save this organization. You promised the Jets fans that they had some good years to look forward to. Now, obviously, your first year, out of your control. You got hurt. I don't blame you for that, all right? Jets fans shouldn't blame you for that either. It's out of your control. But this year, you were supposed to come back and lead the Jets into the promised land, or at least a playoff berth. Not even a playoff win, just making the playoffs, because the Jets haven't made the playoffs, I think, since 2007. It's been that long for them. You promised them that you were going to be the difference maker for that, and your play has been at best mediocre. I'm pulling up the stats right now so I can quote them. But
on this game?
No, just in his play
general.
In general this year. But Aaron, you're 62% completion rate percentage. You've only thrown for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions for a QB rating of 87 this year. That's it. That is not a player that would elevate themselves to be able to make a team that was, I think they were 8-9 last year or something like that, 7 wins or something like that.
Yeah, close to that.
And then elevate them to a playoff team. You were even talking about Super Bowl, basically.
He even said possibly bringing 2 Super Bowls to this franchise.
I think he said that during when he first joined. Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, Aaron, this is on you, buddy. As the leader of the team, you cannot be pointing fingers to everybody else while it's your play. All right. Now there's drops, there's people running wrong routes, and there's also plays where you're throwing dumb interceptions, forcing the ball in, or just completely missing the player and incompletions. This is on you too, buddy. You're missing Devontae. Devontae is one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Garrett Wilson is one of the young up-and-coming stars in the league. You've got your buddy, Allen Lazard. You got a bunch of buddies on your team, and you're still not able to get it done. This is 100% on you. It's disgusting behavior to be shifting blame as a leader, as someone who's been in the league this long. Other quarterbacks have done what you've been claiming to do here. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
They all did what you're claiming to do. You need to start. I don't know what's going to happen next year, but if you're back with the Jets, you better be playing some pretty great football for this team because this is embarrassing. Vincent, what are your thoughts, man?
So I think it all started in the offseason. Of course, we had those looming thoughts all offseason long before the NFL draft. When is Rodgers coming back? Is he coming back as he said, super early, going to be practicing the whole offseason, going to be with the team and everything like that? And he lied through his teeth. He said, I'm going to be there the entire time, basically, throughout training camp, throughout mini camp. I'm going to be there with these young guys to get them up to speed so that way we can play at the best football we can, is basically what he said all off season long. And he lied. He left during mini camp and training camp. He wasn't there, and he wasn't doing this, and he wasn't doing that.
He had to go to Egypt.
I don't care.
It was a solstice, man. Like, what was he supposed to do? What was he supposed to do?
He's supposed to stay with his team and watch it on TV like everybody else.
It was Egypt.
I understand. Yeah, you got all that money. You can do all those things. So I wouldn't, mind doing that either. But it's also Robert Saleh's fault. And I know he's not with the organization there anymore, but he was very soft on Aaron Rodgers because he fell in love with him from the first pass he threw in a Jets uniform. And again, that's just a mixture of bad coaching, bad leadership on both of their ends. So again, Robert Saleh's already out the door. They booted his butt. Now I think Aaron Rodgers needs to be booted, and the Jets just need to, continue with their failures and accept it. Because if they don't accept it, they're not going to move on, just like how the Bears kind of do that. So, in my opinion, if they keep Rodgers, they darn better draft a dang rookie quarterback this year, and they light a fire under Aaron Rodgers' butt. If this guy sits behind Rodgers for 3 years because Rodgers starts playing like an elite quarterback again, then cool. Awesome. You got the future right after Rodgers retires, and maybe he brings his promise to fruition and he gets you 1 Super Bowl. Again, that's a long shot because at this point in time, I don't see it happening at all. They have a bunch of old heads on there. I've said it many times on my Power Rankings videos. They need to just get younger. They need to get rid of all these contracts that are weighing them down. They need to get younger. They have a great defense, young defense. It's great, in my opinion. It's not top of the league. It's not top 10 or anything, but the cornerstone pieces are there. And then you look at the offense. It's really just Garrett Wilson. Maybe Mekhi Becton, one of their offensive linemen, and Breece Hall. That's about it. Other than that, I see a bunch of old heads. I see a bunch of pieces picked from different franchises because they used to be all pro. They used to be guys who made it to the Super Bowl before, and it's just not working. So, again, I think it's this offense's fault, starting with Aaron Rodgers. I think they need to cut him, just cut ties with everything. They already did it with Robert Saleh, and now it's just the next guy on the totem pole because they're not going to fire their GM. They're not going to have new ownership style. So it has to start there. That's what I think of this organization. It's just bad.
Yep. A lot of changes need to happen for the Jets. Ain't going to happen this year. They've already fired enough people. We'll see if they cut people. It'll be very interesting offseason for the Jets fans. Very fun for us.
I hope they're on Hard Knocks again. I hope they just bypass that rule where if you've been in Hard Knocks the past,
no, you can't.
It'd be so funny again just to get people's spirits up and then just see them crumble again.
Nope. All right. Let's move on from Aaron Rodgers. Enough talking about that jerk, unfortunately. Let's talk about a young up-and-coming quarterback name of Bryce Young. Bryce Young had a game today, even though he did lose in overtime to Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. He played really, really well and had some really good stats and looked like a real starter out there. So he threw for 46 times, completing 26 of those passes, 298 yards, and threw it was a game-winning touchdown until the Buccaneers came and ruined it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So he got his team in winning position. It was a lead-changing touchdown that he threw to Adam Thielen, but it was not a game-winning, unfortunately. But I liked everything I saw from the Panthers and Bryce Young in that game. They had a chance to go down the field and kick a field goal to win it in overtime, but then Chuba Hubbard unfortunately fumbled it. Just happens, unfortunately. But yeah, he looked really, really well. I really liked what I saw from Bryce Young. He also ran for a touchdown as well. I think he is. My overreaction is he has solidified himself as the starter for the Panthers, and they need to continue building around that guy and not bench him for Andy Dalton again.
No.
Continue playing him and developing him into a quarterback that can actually win. Move forward with Bryce Young. I know it's looked rocky, but if you give him the pieces, the offensive line and wide receivers that he needs, he can win in this league, I think. Vincent, what are your thoughts?
I love it, dude. I love Bryce Young right now. Not because I have him on my dynasty and I'm looking towards the future, because I picked him up off waivers after somebody dropped him, and I was like, there's no way this kid is just going to fizzle out the league. I was like, yes, his stature isn't what everybody wants it to be. He hasn't been playing his best ball. But then again, once this team gutted everybody, that was kind of, in my opinion, toxifying this locker room. Deontay Johnson. But anyways, some other people too got cut. They elevated these young rookies. They're changing the culture here with Dave Canales there as the head coach. And I really like the direction they're going. Again, Dave Canales has always been thought of as the quarterback whisperer ever since he was in Seattle and he left over there to the Buccaneers. He brought Baker Mayfield's career back, if it was him or not, if he just aided in that. But now it's happening with Bryce Young. And now that we look back on the benching of Bryce Young, it doesn't look so bad. Because maybe that's what he needed, Maybe he just needed that little push or something. Again, I don't know. We don't know the mind of the Carolina Panthers organization. We haven't been able to see inside of it too much. Maybe after the season is done, we will. But at this point in time, he's playing great ball. And he's playing great ball without a lot of studs. Really, his only stud on that team on the offensive side is Chuba Hubbard. You can make the case for Xavier Legette. You can make the case sometimes for Adam Thielen, but he's an older guy, so he's on his way out of the league probably soon. But he's doing this. He's passing for 298 yards, and last game, 263 yards with basically nobodies. So, again, I think Bryce Young is developing after just basically this is his second year, and with guys who you haven't even heard of. So, in my opinion, I think the addition of Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, as they're both going to be with this team for the next 3 years, I think this looks really, really good because it reminds me a little bit of the Lions, but they're just not there yet as an organization. But they have the pieces to start moving in that direction. And I think them continuing to lose, even though they're playing well, is going to benefit them because they're going to have great picks. They have, of course, the future to look forward to with just adding pieces here and there. They have a lot of money coming into this free agency pool. So there's going to be a lot of guys that they can add, but they need to be smart about it. So I'm excited for this organization. I'm excited for Bryce Young. And in my opinion, I think the Carolina Panthers within 2 or 3 years are going to possibly have a playoff berth. If they keep going like this. If Bryce Young keeps playing like this, Dave Canales stays the head coach, they keep adding pieces here and there and they don't get greedy and just add some of these big name guys and they just kind of build, I think they could get there pretty quickly, especially in that division.
That's the only way is winning the division because there's a lot of wild card juggernauts out there in the NFC currently. We'll see in a couple of years, but their easiest way is winning their terrible division with the Bucks, Saints, and the Falcons.
Yeah.
But we only got one more overreaction for you guys. This one is a little bit of a Vincent overreaction because going into the season, he doubted the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are now 9-3, leading the AFC North, 2 games ahead of the Ravens. Vincent, what's your overreaction after doubting this team? When I put them, I was like, "Hey, this team's gonna be great." What are your thoughts right now, man?
So everybody knows there's a Hall of Fame for coaches, right? And Mike Tomlin has won or had 19 straight seasons ever since he stepped foot in Pittsburgh. From the help of a lot of players, from the help of the organization already being established. But 19 straight years of never having a losing season. He's gotten close these past few years, gotten close to not getting it done. But he did it with a horrible squad on the offensive side. The defense was their savior. And they're just looking good right now. Maybe Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are just the guys to do it to keep this organization as a top-tier organization. Because I see a few teams as these juggernauts. Right now, it's going to be Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be great for a long time. Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions. They're going to be great for a long time. I don't know about the Vikings yet. I still think there's some turmoil there that's going to happen within these next few years, but really nobody else. There are no other teams, in my opinion, that are just juggernauts. I don't think that the Eagles will stay at this peak. So my overreaction here is Mike Tomlin a top 5 or top 3 coach of all time? He's had some Super Bowls. Yeah, he's had a lot of playoff wins, a lot of playoff losses too. But again, winning in the regular season like he has been doing with the rotation of guys in and out, but always having a stacked defense no matter what, having, mediocre to great offenses and getting it done. Does this make him one of the best coaches of all time? And there's a lot of great coaches, of course. But in our day and age, as we've been alive, I feel like he's been one of the greatest coaches that I've seen.
He's definitely been one of the best coaches out of the last 20 years. Obviously, if you're talking about the last 20 years, Bill Belichick's going to be the top of that. Yep. And obviously, all time, Bill Belichick's probably the greatest coach of all time. I'm always going to put Vince Lombardi in the talk of it because he was the greatest head coach for a very long time. I think Bill has overtaken him with 6 Super Bowl wins as a head coach, and he's got 2 as a defensive coordinator as well. So I would put Bill over Vince, but I would think Andy Reid up there with what he's doing with Kansas City now. There's a lot of other guys I would put up there. There's Tom Landry, Bill Walsh, Don Shula. There's so many great head coaches over the last 50 years or whatever. But Mike Tomlin deserves his spot up there as well. He's only been able to win 2 Super Bowls in those 20 years. He technically has a chance to another Super Bowl here with being 9-3. He does have a chance. I think it's going to be tough sledding with that offense if they don't play consistently well. But he does have a chance at another Super Bowl with what their record is right now. I would put him up there as a top 5, easily top 10 for me. I would put him in the top 10 spot. Sure. Top 5, top 3, it gets really tough out there because you have to start comparing eras. Like, hey, is this head coach, he wouldn't do good in this era than now in today's NFL, but I think current modern day head coaches wouldn't do well in the previous like the old era, you know. So it's hard as far as comparing eras. Like, is Jordan better than LeBron? Or is this person better than that, or whatever? It gets tough there. But I would say that Mike Tomlin is a top 10 head coach easily. I love his demeanor. I love his culture that he's been able to instill in the Steelers for so long. I love everything about Mike McTomlin. I think he's easily one of the greatest head coaches of all time.
Same. I mean, again, I used to root for the Steelers before I started watching like football as like an actual hobby. I would just watch it randomly. So I used to root for them before I started rooting for the Seahawks because, again, I enjoy defense. I mean, my dad was a defensive coach, and my grandfather was a defensive coach, so I've always grown up around coaches who are defensive minded, and so that's how I've always seen the game. So when I see these defenses like the Steelers have had for almost 2 decades, basically, because they're one of the most hard hitting defenses, like pound for pound every single year.
Yep.
So I just love what he does. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think for sure, easily top 10. I would say even easily top 7 in my opinion. But then it gets to that top 5, top 3. But for sure with this era, I think he's a top 3. I think he's right there with Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, and then it's probably Mike Tomlin, just because of the Super Bowl wins that are not stacking up for him. But yeah, I just want to talk about that. I think it's an amazing feat. I rode them off before this season, like completely. I said they were going to be one of the worst teams ever. Nope. I thought they were going to win like 4 or 5 games max.
I told you were wrong so badly.
Yeah, you did. Russell Wilson came in here. Justin Fields came in here. And, you know, they helped this team win. So they got them just over the hump in a lot of those games. Not some crazy wins or anything like that. But if you consistently can get it done like that and go 9-3 here going into week 13, tremendous. Love it. Mike Tomlin, I bow to you, sir.
It's truly incredible. Mike Tomlin was able to have 9-win seasons with Kenny Smallhands Pickett as his quarterback. I give him even more like props for that. That was crazy. But yeah, that's all we got for you guys this Monday. It's been a crazy week 13. Hopefully tonight, as we react to the Browns and Broncos game, is going to be great. I'm rooting for the Browns, even though I think the Broncos are going to win this. It's going to be a good game, so you guys make sure you stay tuned in for that. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you are enjoying NSP content, why haven't you hit that sub button yet? Hit that sub button and stay tuned to everything NSP. And as always, if you disagree with anything that we just said, do you think Mike Tomlin is a terrible head coach? Let us know in the comments, all right? Hit that, go to the Be a Keyboard Warrior. Let us know down in the comments. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and keep on grinding.